At the Corner of Rock Bottom and Nowhere. Written by L.A. Witt. Narrated by Sean Crisden. Chapter 1. Adrian. Las Vegas is a weird place. I've never lived anywhere else, but I've traveled a little, and I've seen enough movies to understand that this electric desert oasis isn't like other cities. It isn't just the Strip, either, or the fact that other places apparently don't have slot machines at the airport or poker machines at 7-Eleven. There's a different vibe here. Or two vibes at once, I guess. Like two parallel worlds existing in the exact same spot on two different planes, completely unaware of each other. The one most people know about, and the reason they come here in droves for vacations, is the shiny, sparkly one. The Las Vegas that always makes it into the movies, where it's nothing but glittering lights, jingling slot machines, cheering crowds around craps tables, and drive-through wedding chapels. The other Vegas sucks. It's the gritty, gross part. The burnt-out lights, the losing slot machines, the depressed tables where no one is winning, and the quickie divorces. It's seeing the same person at the same slot machine or the same table at 10 in the morning in the same clothes they were wearing when you saw them at midnight. There are pawn shops filled with wallets, cell phones, jackets, shoes, jewelry. The last few meager possessions a person unloads in the name of scoring a few dollars. Sometimes they're smart and use that handful of money to get on a bus and hightail it out of town. Or if they don't have enough for that, at least go to one of the buffets and get something to eat. But usually, the money winds up in a predictable place, a casino's coffers. Sooner or later, people run out of things to pawn, and they wind up huddled against a wall with nothing but the clothes on their back and a sign scrawled on a wrinkled piece of cardboard. Nobody sees them, but they're here, all along the Strip. The destitute people who've given their last dime to the casino gods and have nothing left. No money, no way out. I live in that gray area between the two parallel worlds. Too jaded to be won over by the sparkly shit, too numb to pay attention to the sad underbelly. I walk down the Strip every day and every night. I step over the odd pool of vomit, get nearly run over by drunken partiers having the time of their lives, and pass by the still, sad homeless people, without even looking long enough to read their cardboard signs. Once in a while, usually after I've watched someone lose everything at my blackjack table, I feel guilty enough to drop a handful of change into their cup, especially when they're using those plastic coin cups from the casino where I work. But I don't meet their eyes and don't really give them much thought. As soon as the coins clang in the bottom of the otherwise empty cup, I've done my part, and that's the end of it. I walk on and ignore them like I do all the other sad realities of this town. Tonight, as always, I want nothing more than to get home and take a shower. After 6 hours of dealing cards, I danced for another 4 at the Night Owl. My feet hurt. My body is exhausted. Nothing exists for me now except fatigue and the promise of a hot shower and several hours of sweet, sweet sleep. Hands tucked in my pockets, I weave through the crowd outside the Bellagio. The fountains are dark and quiet this time of night. The water and light shows stop sometime around midnight, but there's a reason they call this the city that never sleeps. Most people on the sidewalk are swaying a bit, some drunk, some probably just tired as hell. It's Sunday night, after all. Well, early Monday morning, so a lot of the weekend revelers are running out of steam. The railing along the Bellagio's enormous fountain has little patios every few feet for people to stand and watch without blocking foot traffic. Not that they're big enough to accommodate everyone who wants to see the show. When the fountains are going, it's a nightmare to walk through here. It's not so bad now, and as I pass one of the patios, there's a homeless man pressed back up against a concrete planter. He's a typical sight: rumpled clothes, a cardboard sign, a plastic cup. I glance at him with the same interest I might glance at a manhole cover or some graffiti, and keep walking. For about 8 feet. I halt abruptly enough that a group of women, one wearing a tiny telltale white veil, crash into me, nearly knocking me off my feet. Someone slurs an apology, and then they're gone, staggering down the walkway toward the next bachelorette party destination. My feet are under me again, but I don't start walking. I glance back at the homeless guy. He doesn't see me. His head's down, and I wonder if he might be asleep or passed out. There aren't any bottles near him, aside from an empty Aquafina bottle lying by his foot, though maybe he's got something in the backpack tucked up against his leg. I didn't smell any alcohol on him, but I've been inhaling cigarette smoke all day, and my nostrils were pretty much seared by the booze radiating off my last lap dance customer of the night. He's wearing a suit. It's hard to tell for sure in the dim light, but it looks expensive. Finely cut, a nice gray material. I'm no expert, but I doubt those shoes are cheap. Wherever this guy fell from to land here, on the street outside the Bellagio with a cardboard sign at 2 o'clock on a Monday morning, it was a lot higher than any place I've ever been. Poor guy. Shaking my head, I continue walking. I try to think ahead to shower and sleep, but something tugs my mind back to the homeless guy in the suit and nice shoes. Ridiculous. He's hardly the first person I've seen who went from high rolling to begging for change. He'll hardly be the last. And yet, with every step I take, guilt burrows deeper into the pit of my stomach. My feet slow without any conscious effort on my part. Then, once again, I stop. This time, it's not such an abrupt halt, and nobody crashes into me, though some shit-faced guys just barely miss. I stand there for a long moment, hemming and hawing, before I finally turn around and backtrack. He's still there. In the moment since I walked by him, someone's dropped a wrinkled bill into the cup. Or maybe it was there before and I just didn't notice it. He's awake, too, but looks out at the dormant fountain instead of at the people passing him by. I wonder how many people he walked by before he crashed and burned, too. After a moment, he tenses a little and turns toward me, like he's just realized there's someone standing here. He lifts his chin, and a pair of dark, exhausted eyes meet mine. Then he breaks eye contact and pulls his knees in close to his chest. "Am I in your way? Sorry." In my way? It's weird, and makes me feel guiltier, that he's worried he's in the way. I'm used to stepping around homeless people. I didn't even have to step around him because he'd situated himself outside the flow of traffic. "You're not in the way," I say quietly. He looks up at me again, but keeps his knees hugged to his chest. His jaw is scruffy, a few gray hairs peppering the otherwise dark beard. My guess is it's been 3 or 4 days since he's shaved, so whatever happened to all his money, whichever casino, hooker, or drug dealer took the last of it, it wasn't all that long ago. Something about him is familiar, but I can't put my finger on it. And anyway, I see countless faces every day, either at my blackjack table or when I'm dancing. And he's still watching me, equal parts curious and uneasy about my sudden fascination with him. "Yeah, I'm right there with you." I clear my throat. I scrabble for words, and finally settle on gesturing up the road and saying, "There's a 24-hour buffet up there. If you want something to eat, I can buy you a plate." His eyebrows jump, and the way his jaw works, I suspect his mouth is watering. Still, he stays guarded. "Why?" "Because I'm going to guess you haven't eaten in a while." His eyes flick toward the Aquafina bottle. There's a Snickers wrapper next to it, either some litter that blew up next to him or the remnants of a small act of kindness from a passerby. Or, hell, maybe he stole it, or scrounged up enough change to buy it. Returning his gaze to me, he keeps his voice flat and disinterested. "You don't even know me." "No," I swallow. "But—" I can't think of anything that doesn't sound patronizing. "The offer's open. You don't have to." "Neither do you." I want to be frustrated with him, but I suspect I'd be just as reluctant if I were in his position. Pride, for one thing. Also, because in this town a lot of things have strings attached. "No strings," I say. "I'll help you get something to eat, and then I can drive you down to the shelter. It's gotta be better than sleeping on the sidewalk." He gnaws his lip, considering me uncertainly. "I don't have any way to pay you back." "It's okay." A casual comment about how it isn't much almost makes it past my lips, but I stop it in time. Yeah, a little bit of gas and 2 plates at a buffet isn't a lot of money for me, but that might be kind of insulting from someone with a few dollars and a handful of change to his name. Are you sure? He finally asks. I nod. Yeah. He looks down at himself, then shyly back up at me. I'm not really presentable to go into a restaurant, am I? I smile. It's Vegas. They've seen worse. I flinch at my own comment, realizing a second too late that I sounded like a dick. But he actually cracks a little laugh and shrugs. Okay, I've got... He pats his backpack. If they don't mind me using their restroom, I could actually clean myself up. You know, get rid of this. He strokes his beard and wrinkles his nose. I don't see why not. All right, well... He releases a long breath and gathers his things, the backpack, the change cup, the sign, the bottle and wrapper, and stands. At his full height, he's got at least 3 inches on me. Not that that's a shock since I'm only 5'9" in boots. He shifts his weight. I didn't catch your name. Adrian, yours? Max. He extends a hand but then starts to retreat as if he's second-guessed the idea. I clasp it, though, and shake it. Let's go get something to eat. Let's? His eyebrow lifts. You're joining me? If I'm going to drive you to the shelter afterward, I might as well. Oh. His eyes flick down. So do mine. We haven't let go of each other's hands. Abruptly, we do, and he mutters something like, give me a sec. Then he steps away to tuck the bottle and wrapper in a trash bin, empties the contents of the cup into his hand, and pockets the meager sum before putting the cup and sign into his backpack. While Max goes through those motions, I take in a few more details. He's broader in the shoulders than I am, but most guys are. There's a stain across his shirt and blue tie, like he dumped some coffee on himself. Or, judging by where it is, starting mid-chest and splattering up his shoulder, like someone threw one on him. No wonder he's wary of me. With his pack on his shoulders, he faces me, and he struggles to hold my gaze. I really appreciate this. Most people just walk by. The guilt in my gut burrows deeper. I'm usually one of those people, I don't say, and I don't know why I didn't this time. But I just nod in the direction I'd been walking earlier. It's, a couple of blocks this way. Thanks, he says again, and we start walking. Chapter 2. Max. The last few days have made me more wary of strangers than I've ever been in my life. The sheer vulnerability of living, if you could call it that, on the street is terrifying. I'd admittedly turned up my nose at the homeless in the past, but I'd never thought about what it might be like to be one. It had never occurred to me that someone might offer me a cup of coffee, then toss the scalding hot liquid on me and laugh with their drunken idiot friends before wandering off. I also never realized how cold the desert gets at night until I had to sleep outside in a wet shirt. It's been a hell of an education. So when Adrian stepped away from the endless stream of people and offered to help me out, I was nervous. He seemed genuine, though. There was pity in his eyes, which made my pride want to shrivel up and die, but nothing about him struck me as threatening or malicious. 10 minutes or so after I joined him, we walk into one of the casinos. It's not one of the giant ones that are visible from space, not the Luxor or Caesar's Palace. It's smaller and smokier, with lights that aren't quite so bright and slots that don't seem quite so loud. Or maybe that's just because it's so late at night. I don't even know what time it is. There's a small line out the door of the buffet, typical Vegas, and I've heard that's a good sign anyway. You don't want to go into a buffet that doesn't have a few people waiting. If there's no line and the place is deserted, there's probably a reason for it. A few feet shy of the line, Adrian stops. He gestures at a sign above the walkway. The signs will take you to the restrooms. I'll wait for you here. Thanks. I give him the best smile I can muster, then follow the signs. I'm tempted to look back and make sure he hasn't had second thoughts and run out the door. At this point, even if he has, it's not all bad. At least I'll finally get to clean myself up a bit. All the way to the men's room, no one gives me a second look, and I wonder why I didn't do this sooner. I'd dashed in to use the casino restrooms a few times when nature called, but hadn't dared take the time to fix myself up. I'd been convinced they'd throw me out, but now that seems stupid. How would they know? Then again, I remind myself as I push open the heavy door, I'm new to being homeless. I don't know how all this shit works. The restroom is deserted. I slip into a stall and open my backpack. I have 3 sets of clothes left to my name, and the 2 in the bag are clean. With no place to get dressed without risking a public indecency charge and no way to do laundry, I'd been reluctant to change clothes until I absolutely had to. Of course, now I realize I could have gone into a casino like I'm doing now. And hell, maybe a public indecency charge would have been enough to send me to jail. At least then I'd be indoors and have something to eat. I really do suck at being homeless. Once I've changed into a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, I leave the stall and park my bag at my feet in front of the sinks. I dig out my toiletry kit and get to work. Shaving, putting on deodorant, washing my face and hands, brushing my teeth. I'm pretty sure I will never again take for granted how good these things feel. Whenever I made it home or to a hotel after a long flight, I'd loved scrubbing away the grossness of traveling and making myself look presentable again. That has nothing on how amazing it is to de-scruff myself after almost a week on the streets of Las Vegas. When I'm finished shaving, I splash some more water on my face. A few drops land on my t-shirt, but I don't care. It'll dry, and anyway, it isn't scalding hot coffee. I stuff the toiletry kit back into my bag, then face the mirror. It's kind of like seeing another me, one who doesn't exist anymore. Cool and confident, well-groomed, and standing in front of an ornate backdrop, even if it's just the gilded decor of a goddamned casino restroom. Staring down that version of myself, I can almost make myself believe I imagined the last several days, and the even darker days before that. Almost. Maybe if I weren't wearing Italian leather shoes with a pair of jeans, and I weren't looking gaunt enough that my mother would throw a fit if she were still alive. I'm still alive, though. That's something. Don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it's something. I hoist my bag onto my shoulders and step out into the casino. As the buffet comes into view, so does Adrian. He's looking at his phone, so he doesn't know I'm looking at him. And really, this is the first time I have looked at him. Turns out he's exceptionally good-looking. He's dressed in form-fitting black jeans and a snug t-shirt with a pair of lazily tied and faded Converse sneakers. Black hair tumbles into his eyes enough that he's constantly brushing it away, and in the back it just teases his collar. I've never been a fan of long hair, but I can make an exception for him, especially the way it frames his slim face that's somehow both smooth and angular. Despite living in the desert, at least I assume he lives here, he's fair-skinned. Not pasty or pale, but fair. I'm not sure what color his eyes are. Suddenly, I want to know. He's familiar, too, though I'm not sure why. From the way he stands and moves, it's all with an effortless grace that I've always loved in a man. I wonder if he's a dancer of some sort. There's no shortage of them in this town. As lithe as he is, with the tight black t-shirt clinging to some slender but obviously powerful muscles, I wouldn't be surprised if he's part of one of the Cirque du Soleil shows. As I come closer, he lifts his gaze from his phone and zeroes right in on me. Blue. His eyes are blue. Vivid, ice crystal blue. He's got on a bit of black eyeliner, too, smudged and smoky and unavoidable. I'm not sure how I missed that before, but I definitely see it now. He smiles, nodding toward the buffet. Ready? My focus immediately shifts from my beautiful savior to the restaurant, and my mouth starts watering, just like it did when he'd suggested the idea. Yeah, definitely. We stand in line, but not for long. In minutes, we have a table, I have a plate in my hand, and there's so much food laid out in front of me, I want to cry. In the last 3 days, I've consumed a grand total of the 2 granola bars I'd had in my backpack, a sandwich from an exceptionally kind passerby, and a Snickers bar I bought with some of the change I'd collected. Standing here like a fool in front of all these endless arrays of food, I don't even know where to start. Adrian appears beside me, also holding a plate. We can stay as long as you need to, so don't feel like you have to inhale it all in 5 minutes. I just nod. The hunger that's been consuming me for days is so intense now, it's excruciating. Still, I'm vaguely aware that I should go easy at first, No point in making myself sick. I walked through the buffet twice, getting just small portions of a few different things before returning to our table. It's a weird feeling, walking away from food. All it took was just shy of a week for me to develop that instinct to not let a single morsel pass me by because it might be the last thing I eat for a while. I'm still edgy, carrying my modest plate to the table and boldly taking for granted that the buffet won't magically evaporate while my back is turned. A waitress comes by for a drink order. I order an ice water and cautiously ask if she can just bring an entire pitcher to the table. Moments later, she does. Adrian sits across from me. We eat in silence for a little while. Now and then our eyes meet, and there's still pity in his, but something else, too. Curiosity, maybe. That must be it. I swear I can see the giant question mark hanging over his head. I'm terrified he's going to ask how I wound up on that sidewalk, and I suppose he has every right to. I just don't know how much I want to dive into it. The shame burns hot enough even without explaining what happened. After my second plate, I don't go back right away. I suspect I'm not anywhere near finished, but with as little as I've eaten lately, I'd better pace myself. Sitting back in my chair, I sip my water, wondering if water has always tasted this good, if anything has. I idly swirl the water like a fine glass of wine. 2 weeks ago, I had dinner in a Michelin-starred restaurant. Had a $300 steak. I push out a breath and meet Adrian's eyes. And I swear to you, it didn't taste nearly as good as this buffet shit does. He laughs, and I love the way his lips curve when he does. There isn't much that tastes bad when you're really hungry. Yeah, I'm learning that real fast. Then we're silent again, and I can feel the question in his eyes. Now he's really curious, and it's my own damn fault for bringing up the steak. He watches me. I watch him. The eyeliner isn't the only thing darkening the skin around his eyes. There are some definite circles there. He must be exhausted. I glance around, then remember casinos don't have clocks. What time is it anyway? Adrian pulls out his phone. Almost 3:30? That explains a lot. I glance around the sparsely crowded restaurant. Do I even want to know what day it is? Monday, the 14th. I whistle before I take a deep swallow of water so cold it makes my teeth ache. I don't want to explain it to him. Why the days have all blurred together and I'm a human trash fire. I feel good right now, and I'm not ready to feel like shit again. Clearing my throat, I set the glass down and face him. So, you live here, in Vegas? He nods, but offers nothing more. How long? All my life. He absently traces lines in the condensation on his glass with his long fingers. I was actually on my way home from work when I... His eyes flick up to meet mine. When I ran into you. Oh? What do you do? He regards me silently, as if he knows I'm avoiding the elephant in the casino. If he does, he lets it go, at least for now. I'm a blackjack dealer. Pause. And a stripper. His eyes are locked on mine, and he lifts his chin just slightly, as if challenging me to have an issue with it. Oh, funny. I thought you must be a dancer of some sort. His black-lined blue eyes narrow a little. Why's that? Just the way you move. Dancers have a certain... I wave a hand because the word just won't come to me. I don't know, grace, I guess? That softens him a bit. He relaxes against his chair, and I think he even blushes. I'm not sure what to say. Then he asks, So where is home for you? Here we go. Is that an icebreaker before asking how the fuck I wound up on the streets? A faint smile forms on his lips, and he lifts a slender shoulder in a half shrug. It doesn't have to be. I'm just curious where you came from. I reach for my drink and mutter into my glass. A gilded cage at the top of an ivory tower built on sand. Adrian's eyes widen, revealing just how blue they really are. Oh. Sighing, I set the glass back down. I'm sorry, it's just a really long and depressing story. You don't have to tell it. He pauses. I guess I'm just curious where you'll go after this. After this. Where I'll go. Where will I go? What does come after this? Oh my God. I stare at my empty plate for a moment and realize I'm still fucking starving. I stand and gesture at the buffet. I'm going to do another round. And then I go before he can say anything else.